Congratulations! She's beautiful.
We brought these for you.
Oh, thank you so much. They're lovely.
Hello, dear audience. Today we will follow a touching story about family love and the sacred moment when a baby is born. After 9 months of pregnancy filled with hope and anticipation, Tieu Hue suddenly goes into labor late at night. CEO Tuan quickly rushes her to the hospital, filled with anxiety and excitement. While waiting outside the delivery room, he cannot stop worrying and praying for the safety of both his wife and their baby. Finally, the most beautiful moment arrives when the doctor comes out and announces that both mother and baby are safe, placing the tiny newborn into the father's trembling arms. From that moment on, the days after birth are filled with love as Tuan carefully takes care of both mother and child, opening a warm and joyful new chapter for their small family. If you enjoy emotional stories about love, family, and the beautiful moments of life, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and share the video to support us. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next stories. After 9 long months of pregnancy filled with hope, excitement, and a little nervous anticipation, the long-awaited moment finally arrived for Tieu Hue. It was late at night, and the house was quiet, wrapped in the peaceful silence that often comes before dawn. Tieu Hue had been resting in the bedroom, her hands gently resting on her round belly, thinking about the baby who would soon enter their lives. Suddenly, a sharp pain spread across her abdomen. At first it was mild, but within minutes the pain returned stronger, making her gasp softly. She instinctively held her stomach and sat up slowly on the bed. Another contraction came, this time more intense than before. Realizing what was happening, her heart began to race. With a trembling voice, she called out for her husband, "Tuan, I think it's time." In the living room, CEO Tuan was still working on his laptop, finishing some documents he had promised himself he would complete before the baby arrived. The moment he heard Tieu Hue's voice, something in her tone made his heart skip a beat. He immediately stood up and hurried to the bedroom. When he opened the door, he saw Tieu Hue sitting on the bed, her face pale and covered with small beads of sweat. She was breathing heavily, gripping the bedsheet tightly as another wave of pain passed through her body. Tuan's expression instantly changed from calm to anxious, his heart filled with both fear and determination. The moment they had been waiting for had finally come. He rushed to her side and gently held her shoulders. "Hue, don't worry, I'm here," he said softly, trying to keep his own voice steady, even though his own heart was pounding. Tieu Hue nodded weakly, trusting him completely. Without wasting a second, Tuan quickly helped her stand up and wrapped a warm coat around her shoulders. He had prepared a hospital bag weeks ago, just in case the baby decided to arrive earlier than expected, and now he grabbed it with shaking hands. Supporting Tieu Hue carefully, he guided her out of the house and into the car. The night air outside was cool and quiet, the streets nearly empty. Tuan drove faster than usual, but he remained careful and focused. Every few minutes he glanced at Tieu Hue, who was leaning back in the seat, breathing deeply as another contraction came and went. Each time she squeezed his hand tightly, and each time he squeezed back, whispering words of comfort. "Everything will be okay," he told her again and again. "You're strong, Hue. Our baby is almost here." Inside, however, Tuan was filled with worry. No matter how confident he tried to sound, he couldn't stop imagining all the possibilities. He prayed silently that both his wife and their child would be safe. For months, he had watched Tieu Hue endure the physical and emotional challenges of pregnancy, and he admired her strength more than ever. Now all he wanted was to see her safe and smiling again, holding their child in her arms. Finally, the bright lights of the hospital appeared ahead of them. As soon as the car stopped, Tuan quickly got out and helped Tieu Hue inside. Nurses rushed over with a wheelchair and quickly brought her toward the delivery room. Tuan followed closely behind, his heart beating faster with every step. When the doors of the delivery room finally closed, he was left standing alone in the hallway, staring at the door, silently praying for the moment when he would hear the cry of his child for the very first time. Time seemed to move painfully slow as Tuan waited outside the delivery room. The bright white lights of the hospital hallway reflected off the polished floor, making the place feel even quieter and more tense. Tuan sat down for a moment, but only seconds later he stood up again, unable to stay still. His heart was pounding heavily in his chest, and his thoughts were filled with worry for Tieu Hue. Behind the closed door, she was going through the most difficult and painful moment of childbirth, and there was nothing he could do but wait. He began pacing slowly back and forth along the hallway. Every few steps, he stopped and looked at the delivery room door, hoping someone would come out with news. Occasionally, the faint sound of medical equipment or hurried footsteps could be heard from inside, making his heart jump each time. Tuan clasped his hands tightly together, whispering quiet prayers under his breath. He had faced countless difficult situations in business, making decisions that affected thousands of people, yet nothing had ever made him feel as nervous and powerless as this moment. As he waited, memories from the past 9 months began to fill his mind. He remembered the day Tieu Hue told him she was pregnant. She had been smiling shyly, holding a small pregnancy test in her hand, her eyes sparkling with excitement. At that moment, Tuan had felt a happiness he had never experienced before. From that day on, his life seemed to revolve around taking care of her and preparing for the arrival of their baby. He accompanied her to every prenatal appointment, listened carefully to every piece of advice from the doctor, and made sure she always had healthy meals and enough rest. There were also moments when Tieu Hue felt tired, emotional, or uncomfortable because of the pregnancy. During those times, Tuan stayed by her side, patiently comforting her and reminding her how strong she was. Each time they saw the baby during an ultrasound, the tiny moving figure on the screen filled them both with amazement and joy. Tuan often imagined what their child would look like. Would the baby have Tieu Hue's gentle eyes or his smile? Just thinking about it made his heart warm with anticipation. Suddenly, Tuan stopped pacing. From behind the delivery room door, he heard a faint sound. At first, he wasn't sure what it was. Then, only seconds later, a clear and powerful cry echoed through the hallway. It was the cry of a newborn baby. Tuan froze in place, his eyes widening in disbelief. His heart raced even faster as emotion surged through his chest. For a moment, he could barely breathe. That tiny cry felt like the most beautiful sound he had ever heard in his life. The delivery room door slowly opened, and a doctor stepped out, wearing a gentle and reassuring smile. In the doctor's arms was a small baby wrapped carefully in a soft white blanket. The little face was slightly red, eyes still closed, but the baby continued to cry softly, filling the hallway with life. "Congratulations," the doctor said warmly. "Mother and baby are both safe." At those simple words, the tension that had been building inside Tuan for hours suddenly disappeared. His eyes instantly filled with tears. With trembling hands, he stepped forward, his voice unsteady with emotion. The long wait was finally over, and the moment he had been dreaming about had finally arrived. With trembling hands and eyes filled with tears, Tuan slowly stepped closer to the doctor. His heart was beating faster than ever before, and for a moment he felt almost afraid to move, as if he might wake from a beautiful dream. The doctor gently placed the tiny baby into his arms. The little body was warm and incredibly light, wrapped carefully in a soft white blanket. Tuan looked down, and for the first time, he saw his child's face clearly. The baby's cheeks were pink, the eyes still closed, and the tiny lips moved slightly as the newborn continued to make soft sounds. At that moment, Tuan felt something deep inside his heart change. A powerful wave of love and responsibility filled him completely. He had built a successful career and faced countless challenges in life, but nothing compared to the overwhelming emotion he felt while holding his child for the first time. "Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor," Tuan said, his voice trembling with gratitude. The doctor smiled kindly, understanding the emotion of a new father in this sacred moment. "Your wife did very well," the doctor replied. "Both mother and baby are healthy. She will be resting now, but you can see her soon." Hearing those reassuring words made Tuan feel as if a huge weight had been lifted from his chest. For hours, he had been worried about Tieu Hue's safety, silently praying that everything would go smoothly. Now that both of them were safe, he felt a deep sense of relief and happiness that words could hardly describe. A nurse soon guided Tuan to the recovery room where Tieu Hue was resting. When he gently pushed open the door, he saw her lying on the hospital bed, looking tired but peaceful. Her hair was slightly messy, and her face was pale from exhaustion, yet there was a soft glow of happiness in her eyes. When she saw Tuan holding their baby, a warm smile slowly appeared on her face. Tuan walked slowly to the bedside and sat down next to her. Carefully, he showed her the baby and whispered softly, "Wei, our baby is here." Tears immediately filled Tieu Hue's eyes as she looked at the tiny face of their child. Despite the pain and exhaustion she had just endured, that moment made everything worthwhile. Tuan gently took her hand in his free hand and squeezed it lovingly. "You were so brave," he said softly. "Thank you for bringing our baby into the world." His voice was full of admiration and affection. Tieu Hue smiled weakly but happily, feeling comforted by his presence. During the days that followed, Tuan hardly left the hospital room. Even though he was known as a busy CEO with countless responsibilities, he chose to spend as much time as possible with his small family. He carefully listened to the nurses and doctors as they explained how to take care of a newborn baby. He learned how to hold the baby properly, how to help with feeding, and how to gently rock the child to sleep. Every small movement of the baby fascinated him. At night, while Tieu Hue rested, Tuan often stayed awake beside the crib, quietly watching his child sleep. Sometimes the baby would make tiny sounds or move slightly, and each little movement made him smile with pride and tenderness. For Tuan, these quiet moments were more precious than anything else in the world. In that small hospital room, filled with soft light and gentle silence, a new chapter of love, responsibility, and happiness had just begun for their family.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Tieu Hue Life. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Trong câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay thì đã kể về nội dung đó chính là việc Tiểu Huế đã lên cơn đau bụng và lên cơn đau đẻ. Và CEO Tuấn đã đưa cô đi đến bệnh viện cấp cứu kịp thời, và thật là may mắn khi Tiểu Huế đã hạ sinh con đầu lòng thật là bình an. Em bé được ra đời trong sự chúc phúc của tất cả mọi người. Và là Tiểu Huế và CEO Tuấn cảm thấy rất là vui mừng và hạnh phúc vì cuối cùng con đầu lòng của họ cũng đã chào đời. Đó chính là giây phút thiêng liêng và khoảnh khắc hạnh phúc nhất trong đời Tuấn và Tiểu Huế. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện Tiểu Huế và CEO Tuấn sẽ còn được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút subscribe sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về câu chuyện sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Tiểu Huế Live nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Bye bye.